My name is Bruce Kessler, and I am the director of a movie that was originally made titled Simon. The change of title was added after I had left the picture. The picture had been finished and turned over. Picture came to me through my agent with a producer that they had several deals pending on it where I was acceptable as a director. But I was under contract to Fanfare, and I was required to show it to Joe Solomon, who was the head of Fanfare, and give him a first shot at it. Joe listened to my description of the film and said, yes, I think I'd like to make it. And first we had to cost it. Tommy Schmidt did the board on it and came back at a price that we could make it. And the thing that next step that made the film makeable was a young cameraman named David Butler, who was responsible for the start of fast lenses, which led to Panavision and a whole new way of lighting by using DC lights that were then not being used, called halogen, where we used to light with much bigger lights and necessary to put out the amount of power. So with this combination of people, we made a very unusual picture for its time. I felt that we had done a lot of really interesting things that were not being done at the time, and I was quite hurt when they changed the title to the picture. I never went to see the picture. After I turned the picture over, having just looked at it, I only noticed one thing that was missing, a scene that had been cut that was a very unusual shot, I should say. But if you realize the year this picture was made and the amount of night work that was in it, it was probably shot in 19 or 20 days. I'm sure no longer. It was shot on schedule, and one of the reasons that we could make this picture was because of the new lights that we were using and David Butler's new hard fast lenses that had been taken off a Hasselblad camera and machined apart to put it on an Aeroflex camera, and then he blimped the Aeroflex camera. That term means you wouldn't hear the camera. And we were able to shoot with extremely low light. The look of the picture, when you realize when it was made, it's very, very good quality of lighting, kind of quality we really don't see in those days. We would overlight everything, and the cameraman would always say, oh, don't worry, they'll fix it in the lab, and it always looked like crap. Well, the fake sewer was two connected stages at MGM. It had been I think it had been put together originally for Mutiny on the Bounty. So we built this. Dale Hennessy, I think it's Dale Hennessy, our art director, did a fabulous job. And is he an Academy Award winning art director? Yeah, I think he is. Anyway, Dale just did a wonderful job with that, and it shot between two stages. And the entrance to that was in Griffith Park, but it all looked so absolutely realistic between his contribution and David Butler's lighting. It was the set dressing, everything about it was, for a low-budget movie, was absolutely first class. Andrew Prine was not part of the project when I accepted it. When I accepted the project, no casting had been done, and I did the casting in the normal fashion that we cast a movie. The exception being one actor I'll talk. He wasn't in this picture, he was in another picture. But in this particular situation, it was what I would call a normal procedure for casting the picture, which is you have agents submitting actors, and we read them, if they're acceptable for price, and I approve them. I approved everybody in the picture, or brought a lot of those actors in that I had worked with before.
4 virtues of magic. knowledge, will, courage, and silence.
Andy's always great. I'd worked with him in other things, and Andy's just a wonderful actor. He's one of those talents that never went, probably, he worked a lot, but he never got into the upper echelon. Brenda Scott was a pleasure. I was surprised she'd do the picture. Andy suggested her, and they were divorced. Were divorced by that time. And I said, well, you know, the content of the script, is she willing to play this? He said, I've given her the script and she would like to come in and read for it. And she got the part. I don't know where we got George from, but he was submitted by an agent. George is a wonderful actor. He was studying to do something else at UCLA. He was in film school at the time. But I've got to tell you, he was another actor that really came through. And I don't think he really was trying to follow his acting career. I think he thought he was going to go somewhere else and maybe not in film. Norman Burton was an actor that I had used and somewhere down the line. But anyway, Norman was, I felt very good about the casting. 1971 or whenever we cast this picture, at the price the picture had to be made, I thought I had assembled a very competent cast that could give me what I wanted. Ultraviolet was a minor celebrity at the time. You may remember her if you were around. The scene was written for Ultraviolet. It was in the script when we got Ultraviolet to do it. What surprised me about that sequence was we put out a call for elderly people that would be willing to work naked. Well, I was stunned at how many people responded, and they were not people with beautiful bodies. And of course the scene, which was, I always liked the scene when Andy just can't take it anymore with this so-called witch doing her act, and when he breaks up the group. But I was stunned that I could get those people to work the way they did. I'd wanted to do something different. If you realize at this time there had not been a picture made in the U.S. that had this kind of a look. I had seen a Ken Russell film, of which I didn't really get, but I saw it at the Bruin in Westwood, and the audience was packed, college kids. They loved it. And I thought, when this picture just showed up on my doorstep, this is a chance to do something different, and I thought it's about time I did something different. I like the score, and I always liked Stu's work, and he scored any number of my movies. I don't think it really covers this film. The best Joe Solomon story that I can tell is, well, I can tell lots of them. But in one that sticks in my mind, and we were talking about it before off camera, was the day he walked in and he threw down about 10-page treatment, we call it treatment, and the title was The Gay Deceivers. And I said, when I looked at the title, and only his hairdresser knew for sure, and of course that became a byline in the advertising. And then I read the treatment. The treatment was terrible, just terrible. I couldn't use anything in it except two guys were going to try and beat the draft. So Joe turned around and said, look, I don't care. I can sell this title. You make the picture. I'll pay you first draft for a screenplay. You can bring a writer in and do it, but I want the picture. Figure out how to make a story out of it. And we went ahead to make a very, very successful picture. It was the fourth largest grossing picture of the year, and the picture was made in 19 days. So you can imagine the profit structure on a picture like this. And talking about Joe, Joe knew what he could sell. He knew there were certain things he needed in the picture. And when I say that, I need a lesbian scene, I need a chase, I need a rape, I need a this or that. And then he'd leave it to you, which really kind of made us work a lot harder, and we did some very clever things to integrate these things into his films. I don't know what I would do differently if I was making the picture today. The equipment's changed, everything has changed, but I am happy with what we made in 1971 or whenever we we actually photographed that film. I'm curious. I want to see it on Blu-ray, and I want to play it on a big screen, and I want to be able to really listen to the dialogue, because when we ran it, this particular version, when I just witnessed the film, we were talking during the film, and the dialogue was low, so it was like seeing the film almost for the first time. Killers 3 was a Dick Clark production with AIP. I got the offer to direct the picture. The best part about the offer, or what happened when I got the offer, my agent called me and said, "You got an offer to do this picture, Killers 3. And I said, "Well, have him send me the script." He said, "No, I already accepted it." And I said, "What do you mean you already accepted it? I haven't read it." He said, "I said the same old thing. You can make your changes and what have you." And I said, "Well, couldn't you have sent me the script?" And he said, "Bruce, they offered you twice as much as they paid you for the last picture, so I accepted it." And when I got the script, Michael Fisher had written the original script, and I can't think of the television series that he had done that was so successful. But anyway, I didn't like the script. And they wanted an actress. We were just talking about it, and her name just slipped out of her mind. But the first actress they wanted was Susan Strasberg, who had a contract to do another picture with them. And they sent me to New York. They flew me to New York to try and reason with her to get her to do the picture. And I met her in her father's apartment, and just covered with walls, with awards and things. And I had worked with Sue before, and she said, "I really like you, Bruce, and I'd like to work with you, but if I can say it, you can cut this out." Her exact quote was, "I'll never work for those fucking people again. Never, ever, ever will I work for them again." And I said, "Okay, I got the message." So when I went home, we were talking about an actress whose name slips my mind right now. So they wanted Diane Varsi. And they wanted her on a 3-picture deal. I looked up her agent. Her agent happened to be a guy that I was friendly with who was a year ahead of me in high school. His name was Bill Belasco. And Bill was a little light in the lug nuts, and that wasn't, being done much in those days. People were being pretty careful about if they were from a different genre. They were being very careful about exposing themselves. So I called Bill, and I said, "Bill, they want to explain the deal, what they were asking for." And he said, "She will have to see a script." And I said, "No, I haven't rewritten the script yet, and the script I'm going to shoot's not. The script I have right now is not what we're going to shoot." Started the usual routine about that. And I said, "Would you send her in for a meeting with me?" So Diana came in. I explained to her what I was going to do with the script. So she went back to the studio. Bill went back to the studio, and she said she'll do one picture with Bruce Kessler, and that's all she'll do. She's the only director that she's going to work with. And the studio accepted it, and we went ahead, of course, and made the film. My thoughts about that film. When we talked about Sam Arkoff, Nicholson, and what it was like working for them. They were, again, people who I don't think they read scripts. They knew they needed certain things, and they knew they could sell what it was they could sell. The person that was put in charge to produce its first film, and you'll get his name off it. He went on to be Spelling's partner, but funny things happened in the film, and happened, behind the scenes in the filming, and it was. I didn't want to do the film. When my agents offered it to me, your name gets on a list where you're okay for films, and I had 2 films offered to me at that time, and I didn't want to do either one of them. And my agent said, "No, you have to do Aaron's picture. This is important. It doesn't matter whether you like the film or not. You do Aaron's picture." And that started into a real adventure where the producer that had been assigned to it had and I talked about what we thought we needed and what have you. And when we went to our first meeting with Aaron, he was absolutely against all of the casting that we wanted, and he named the cast that was in the picture. So my producer went back to the office and had a nervous breakdown and quit the picture. They called me and said, well, you can do this picture. And I said, no, I can't rewrite this picture, and it needs some rewriting. So they brought the original writers back. I was, I think, a husband and wife team. And I looked at the original draft of the script, and it was really much better than what other people had done to it. The bottom line of this was I kind of took over the picture, and they kind of fixed what we could fix. The casting was 100% the opposite of what we wanted. But Aaron knows what he wants in a picture. He's made a lot of successful pictures, and ABC never questioned him. The long and the short of the story is we were going to originally go to the Bahamas. They all start this way, and we ended up at Catalina. It was kind of a, interesting film, and when I think of Killers 3, am I talking about Killers 3? No, Killers 3 we went to North Carolina. We went to North Carolina for that picture, and we found a town that had been abandoned, and they had built a new front street right next to it. So it worked perfectly for us. And we, anyway, shot the film, and I kind of liked the film. I liked the ending that I wrote. Dick Clark loved it, and that's all that I can remember. Death Moon was a picture, I believe, for CBS. Yes, I'm sure it was for CBS. Got the offer, like they usually come in, looked at the script. Producers wanted my version of the script, which isn't too unusual, and they wanted especially my version of the end of the picture. And whatever I said was the right thing, and so that's how that picture started. And it was it was a pilot, 2-hour, whatever you call it, pilot movie backdoor thing, and it didn't sell. I enjoyed working with the actor, whose name I can't remember right now, Robert Foxworth. Yeah, I enjoyed working with him. He was terrific. And, it's another film. I mean, a lot of these things are hard to put back together. I remember the opening of the film and how I did it with the helicopter, and what happened there was we had a long shot coming over the surf and coming to this hotel, which was part of the set, and sweeping down. We're doing it first thing in the morning, sweeping down over the swimming pool by the restaurant, and on a cue, Robert walked out and walked into a close-up. And that was it was really difficult shot. And after I'd made the shot on the first take, and I checking with everybody, everybody was clear, I could print it, I didn't have to do it again. And I could see a lot of talk going on between assistant directors and stuff in the background, and I said, what's going on, gang? He said, one thing we didn't figure on, we had about 150 people having breakfast out on this big lanai, and you blew away their breakfast. And I said, well, you'll buy them another breakfast.
Oh, dear gods on high. Though you push me down 1,000 times, I'll climb back up. Until I'm more than a man. Till I stand among you. Your equal.